Are there any questions? So with your practice or with the series, it's yeah, we can begin with that. Just checking in with everybody. How has it been? You've been able to follow the series to an extent. You can let me know how it's going. Okay. I just posted the Wednesday class to the YouTube channel, so it's on the playlist. And for those of you that missed it or that weren't able to attend that one, we covered sections in the Bardo text that talked about using uh, different energy centers and the prana for drawing the prana into the central channel. So I'll explain that. I'll explain this briefly. In Hindu and Tibetan yoga, there's an energy pathway that goes from, in the yoga system, it's the base of the spine. In the Tibetan system, it's the navel chakra. Like if this is the front of the body and this is the back of the body, the central channel is like right in the middle, and it ascends um, from the navel or the spine, depending on the system, all the way up to the crown. So the Bardo texts and other systems, Kriya Yoga as well, for example, focus, they place their attention on different points, different chakra points that are connected to this axis. And by doing so, there's a change in the prana, and as a result, the mind becomes quiet. So, if any of you have done mindfulness of breathing, you may have noticed that after the exhalation, your mind is quiet. So, like if you extend the exhalation, the space between the exhalation and the inhalation, or the space between the inhalation and the exhalation, you notice that in that gap, there's actually less mental dialogue, there's less movement in the mind. So, this is used as a gate for um, non-dual awakening or recognition of the natural state. The idea is that once the cacophony of mental content is subdued or has simmered down to an extent, it's possible to have this recognition of consciousness. It's not necessary, but it helps. So, yeah, because usually our attention and our identification is with the contents in the mind, thinking, feeling, processing. It's not uh, because identification is trapped, is tied to what is occurring in the mind stream. It's not able to zoom out and switch to context or the container, you could say, that things are happening within, which we call mind reality. Radiant presence, Mahamudra. So the manipulation of the prana is actually a way to have recognition occur by stilling the mental processes. And it's specific to the yoga system. So, for example, in Theravada Buddhism, or in, yeah, Theravada Buddhism, They don't do any, chakra meditations or prana manipulation techniques. They just use mindfulness of breathing or some other method. And as a result of that, stillness occurs. And from that stillness, there can be awakening. So it's like there's different there's different methods or different means to generate a cessation of mental content or a reduction of mental content. That's really its function. So in the Bardo text, it talks about brow chakra for this, visualizing a blue flame in the heart center, and then another kind of visual object at the navel, but combining it with breath retention hold. So if any of that was interesting to you, you can go and refer to the class. It's like an hour and 20 minutes. So it explains it in much more detail.
I've got
All
some.
right. You have a question, Jeffrey?
Yes. I don't know if it's more of a question or more of a comment. I've been doing this meditation of I think it's the first three Bardos, and like I can just like tap into this and have like a direct experience of it. And it's like I don't know how many times I've looped around on this life. Like it could be like just a trillion times getting sucked back into it. And I know it's all just everything is or just a projection of my mind. But it's so real and that it just feels so like tempting to get just pulled right back into it. And it just I can just feel that. And there's like an aspect that comes up around like failure. It's like, oh man, like here I go, it's got me again, basically. So I think that's just probably more of a comment than anything. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, this particular thought or pattern or belief of failure, this has this been present in your life even before awakening, even before you got into any of this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Majorly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so it's not necessarily it's like I see it like this. Even if you have an awakening that's unfolding, or you sit in your meditation and you're able to rest in presence, and you can have all the things that unfold with awakening, thinning of the self, experiences of unity, etc. But the previous operating software will remain, even though a new operating system is opening up in your life and in your experience. So, and I actually don't think that non-duality or awakening has the tools to address those things unless you get like the full blowout experience and you have no identification ego left. Fine, then all your problems are out the window, right? But it's what will help you most and what will help the awakening in this sense is to really investigate the failure pattern, like where that thought comes from in the past and how that began in your life. The trauma or the negative beliefs and painful memories, they create this uh they basically prop up the sense of a me that doesn't want to let go, even though it's being asked to in the process of awakening. It props up the sense of a me that's actually dissolving as a result of this work. So, yeah, I had a failure. This is Father's Day, so one of my really big challenges was that um, after my dad passed away, I felt very Yeah, I felt like I had failed, I failed to save him. So that pattern of being a failure and that sense of being a failure, it really dominated like a good 5, 6 years of my life after that. And what helped me overcome it, surprisingly, was like a regression therapy session, actually. My friend was doing this like coaching certification thing, and so he was doing a particular method, and there's so many different kinds of modalities like this, right? But this one in particular was called mental emotional release, and it was based on an NLP modality called timeline therapy. And how the session went was we started with like, when was the first time I thought I was a failure? And we unpacked it from there, and it led into another existence. And yeah, and once I had seen um or the memories of that particular life, and I don't know if this was really a life or if this was just how it was playing out in my mind, because it was a regression therapy. It wasn't some kind of meditative attainment or whatever. But yeah, when it brought me back to this scene where I was a monk in a previous existence, and I made the death vow to like become enlightened or die, and I actually died. Like I actually just sat there until I starved to death. And the last thought that I had on my mind in that life was that I failed. Like fundamentally, I failed. My incarnation was a waste. And the next thing he did was like he had me zoom out from this scene and look at it from way above, and then dunk my awareness back in and zoom out again and dunk it back in. I guess this is a thing in timeline therapy, and it like wiped out the charge. I never thought I was a failure again after that day. And this was like a persistent, I'm living with this shit for 6 years. Every single day, whatever I did, I felt like I'm a failure. Yeah. So that was unique in the sense that it worked. So yeah. Um, with awakening, it's very clear that as the non-dual opens, really our inner demons from the subconscious actually emerge more clearly, and whatever the problem or affliction that we have, that dominates our experience and whatever chapter of our life we're in, that's the thing to actually work through and heal. Why? Because that's what will appear in the Bardo. Like we're actually in a Bardo now. We're in the Bardo of life. So we get the chance to deal with and heal these habitual tendencies and trauma patterns in the waking state. Otherwise, we're confronted with them in death. So I'll give you I think I definitely shared this story before, but I'll reiterate it again. There was a out of body experience I had where my consciousness was dropped into a guy that was engaging in a drug deal, and the deal went bad, and he was shot right there in the alley. And the higher self consciousness, or his higher self, appeared to him as a sphere of light and began guiding him like right in this transition point. And the first thing it told him was to recall his merits, So to remember all the good things that he had done. And he was not able to do that for very long. And immediately, what began to appear, what he began to face, was manifestations of the guilt that he had. He felt like he failed his family, he failed his sister. So that process began right away for this particular person. Probably because of the traumatic nature of his death, and then he was on drugs and selling drugs, so his consciousness wasn't that clear. But the manifestation of his inner turmoil happened right off the bat. So in a person that lived a long life, didn't die of any kind of unusual trauma, has some level of peace and contentment, passed away uh, like ordinarily. Um, they still have the experience of the life review, and often people in near-death experiences, they describe this as experiencing experiencing certain critical moments in their lives from the other person's perspective. So actually seeing the pain they may have inflicted on another person. And part of this life review also is taking stock of things that were left unfinished. So, and that could be a multitude of things, right? In some cases, that could be in relation to another person, but in other cases, it could just be in relation to ourselves. It may be that the lesson was in regards to failure. You see this in the Bardo. You see all the moments in your life where you weren't really accepting enough of yourself. You weren't really loving enough of yourself. You see it from that lens and that perspective at the end of the incarnation, right? And then the learning happens in that state. But the idea is that if possible, the freedom can open and that pattern can be released while we're still living. The more lessons that get processed, the more things that get clear, the deeper that we go in terms of this inner work, uh, the less there is that we're confronted with in the Bardo, in the after death state. If you're a skilled yogi, when you die, you attain the clear light, and you skip the experience that most people have. But if that's not um, if that's not what occurs, or if you miss that point, then the manifestations of your psyche will appear. The the angels, the inner angels and the inner demons of yourself emerge, and this is what's happening in dreams as well. So the living process, or the Bardo of the living, is really just a very, very, very long, extended version of what happens in the death process. In life, you're learning things. In the Bardo, in the life review, you're learning things. In life, you're letting go of things. In the Bardo, in the life review, you're letting go of things. In life, it's possible for realization to occur, for realization to deepen. In the Bardo, the exact same rule applies. Any thoughts, Jeffrey?
Yeah, there's something that just sort of landed there for a second. Just trying to think of the best way to word this. Um, I just have this thought that and I know that, this is maybe like semantics or whatever. Um, and you just said that, this is the Bardo of the living. And I just like had this realization of, am I just like living a life review like right now?
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Am I already dead, bro? Is this happening? No, but yeah, of course. You know, what has been interesting about my um experiences of the Bardo, at least through the eyes and the consciousnesses of the other beings that I experienced it through, was that what the gift of the waking state is the clarity of memory that we have. Um, for people that die an ordinary, just a regular death, they die with some peacefulness. I found they're fine, right? But when the death happens abruptly or in the way that the person feels is premature or in a way that um, was shocking to them, that that creates a very different experience. So yeah, yeah, it creates a very different experience. In the same way that when you're in a dream, actually, this is a good example of this is when psychedelics or like plant medicine trips, and you have a friend, let's say, um, let's say this guy you're with or this girl, they took a little too much, and they're starting to get a little afraid and they're starting to freak out, and you just look them dead in the eye and you say, "Oh yeah, that's normal. You're just getting the lift off jitters. It'll pass in 5 minutes." But you tone it and you say it in a way that conveys um, a sense of certainty, so that it frames their reality like that, and you do this because they're susceptible, and then 5 minutes pass and they're actually fine. Like because they believed it from you, that conditioned their state, right? Their consciousness is very susceptible because it's open from being in a psychedelic state. Death is like that for many consciousnesses because their clarity of mind is not as yeah, it's just not as strong as in the waking state for people that die abruptly or unexpectedly, whatever. Then they're susceptible. So that's why this particular Bardo teaching is considered so important in Tibetan Buddhism. Because yeah, if you're clear of mind when you die, you have a lot of merit, you did a lot of meditation, you're totally fine. Like you're gonna be okay. But in the event that you get caught off guard, you die unexpectedly, you have some regrets, whatever the things that um, most people contend with day to day. If that is very strong at the moment of death, it can really condition the after death state uh, in a way that has serious ramifications. So, but yeah, we're already getting the life review. Like we're already being presented with things to let go of. We're already being presented with lessons. We're already being presented with guidance. We're already here for a reason. We're already awakening. It's already happening. Yeah, it's already happening. So, yeah. And maybe the more scientific minded people in here, like you, Jeffrey, and David, you can you can wrap your heads around retrocausation. Maybe Maybe in the future you're already in the life review, and that's reaching backwards in time, and that's why the life review is opening up in the living. There's many possibilities. I don't know. I think reality is entangled, and what's happening in one place is happening in other places in time as well. So dependent co-arising of all timelines. That's a good New Age Buddhist. That's a good article for a New Age Buddhist lecture. It's a good title for a New Age Buddhist lecture. Yeah. Anything else, Jeffrey, or anyone else here?
Yeah, that last bit was, yeah, getting the body activations around that. There's something there, and I just been called to just, I call it research. I've been like, I analyzed basically every sacred text from the past 3,000 years and looked at around the simulation hypothesis, like basically like Maya,
Yes.
and it's in every one of them.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
it's just like this whole, like, yeah, like it's all just a projection of the mind and how it was all suppressed. And it's just basically like competing. It's just like, this is the real reality, and like, like the dominant norms. And it's just like, yeah, this is, yeah, pretty intense, heavy stuff. So it's definitely landing. So yeah, thank you.
You never read the Journeys trilogy or listened to it yet, right?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so Robert Monroe's final thesis is actually a form of simulation theory, which is crazy because he wrote that
Wow.
in like he wrote it in like 1985 or something, right? So 1985 or 95. And it wasn't simulation theory in the sense that he was saying that, you know, we exist outside of this reality, like programming ourselves on a keyboard. It wasn't like that. But it was basically like this technological Brahma dreaming all of this sort of thing. Yeah. I won't give any more details because, reading it in itself is like its own, yeah, it's its own trip for sure. When I heard the end of uh Ultimate Journey, I literally had to pull over. Like I had to stop driving, like pull off I pressed pause, I pulled off the exit, went into the parking lot of a Waffle House or something, and I just I just stopped and I listened to that final chapter. It's absolutely mind blowing. So yeah. Okay, so we'll get into the rest of the chapter on quiescence, which means calm abiding, samatha, essentially. There was a method here. This is page 100. So we're a third of the way through the text now. This is page 100. It talks about purification of stale energy in the body. So that's like stagnant prana. You can see it like this. There's pranas which energize the mind and body, and then there's energies that stagnate it or can lead to illness. Um, so by doing yoga and by doing meditation, you keep the energy within the body actually like high octane. But there's a certain breathing method here that's recommended for pushing out stale prana. Let's say like you're doing meditation and you notice your body's overheating a lot. You're having difficulty sleeping. You're experiencing a lot of irritation. You're sweating profusely for unknown reasons. Um, you're jittery. This can all be from imbalances in the prana, imbalances in the energy inside the body. So to deal with that, they have certain uh, purification breath exercises, or they have you do specific yoga postures, and that helps balance the energies, and then you feel better and are able to meditate. One of these exercises on page 100 explains breathing. When you're doing the exhalations that's recommended here, you like imagine all this like black smoke and scorpions and spiders and whatever things it is you're terrified of just spewing out of your nose. Yeah, with forceful exhales. So the idea is you're like emptying out the old wine in the wine bag. I think that's a Bible quote or Bible verse. So, but the full details are in the text. I think this is one of the last exercises. This next one is called Training in the Unborn Vajra Recitation of the Three Syllables. So the three syllables are Om, Ah, Hung. Expel the residual vital energy and position your body as before. Now, when you inhale, imagine the physical blessings of all the Buddhas of the three times, which is the past, present, and future, being drawn in the form of a white syllable Om. Then push the upper vital energy down, draw the lower vital energy up, and gather them together beneath the navel. I explained how to do this briefly in the last video. Yeah, if you want pranayama instructions or kumbhaka instructions on how to do this, I can teach them to you. But if you're not gonna really do them, there's no point here. So, in the midst of the closed amulet, basically the chamber of the upper and lower vital energies, imagine the essence of the speech of all the Buddhas of the three times in the nature of a clear, empty, vivid red syllable Ah, which appears but is without an inherent nature. Place your awareness there as long as you can. So what it's referring to is after you've done in this system, it's called the ninefold purification of breath. You make sure your body's erect. You put your right hand, your right finger closing your right nostril, and you breathe in through one nostril, and then you exhale through that nostril. You do that 3 times. You repeat it for the other nostril 3 times. In, out, in, out. And then 3 inhalations and exhalations out of both nostrils. So it's quite simple. And what it's referring to with pulling the vital energy up and then pushing the vital energy down without having to demonstrate the posture and everything, it just means that after you've done this ninefold breathing, when you take an inhale, once the inhale is complete, you take a gulp and you have the sense of pushing your awareness down into your navel as you're pulling the sense of vital energy from your feet and your thighs and your perineum. So you squeeze the Kegel muscle partially, and you do this at the same time. This gulping down and this pulling up and squeezing the perineum, and that creates a sense of compression inside the navel. That's the closed amulet. That's the chamber. So it actually feels like it will begin to feel like a ball of energy is there right below your belly button. And when that becomes, it basically has its own gravity. And when it accumulates enough, it enters the central channel and you can enter non-duality. Yeah. I these types of practices are in Namkhai Norbu system. They're called yantra yoga. when you can do so no longer. So this means you're holding the breath, right? This is after an inhalation. So you're holding the breath and you're compressing the prana for as long as you can, meaning you're holding it for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, a minute, however long you can hold your breath. And then you exhale. So this whole thing of like bringing the prana down, pulling the prana up, squeezing the perineum, that's all happening after the inhalation. So you do a slow inhale, compress, and then hold. Yeah. And they're combining it with the mind, body, speech of the Buddhas, right? So you can imagine infinite Buddhas, and with the eye, you're imagining their mind essences, and or with the Om, you're imagining their mind essences. With the eye, you're imagining their speech. So it's a form of guru yoga. It's a form of connecting with the uh, the Buddha matrix, all the enlightened beings of the past, present, and future. Then it goes on to provide a method that you use in retreats. Well, you could do it outside retreat too, but the idea is that on uh, on every inhalation, you sound Om. On the hold, you sound Ah, and on the exhale, you sound Hum in your mind. So every breath, Om Ah Hung, Om Ah Hung, Om Ah Hung, Om Ah Hung, and this is recommended in the text as the primary mantra for this section. I'll read it. Sustain your attention with unwavering awareness on the inhalation in the nature of Om, holding the breath in the nature of Ah, and exhalation in the nature of Hung. Doing this at all times is called the unborn Vajra recitation. Each day there are 21,600 movements of the vital energy. That refers to, on average, how many breaths. Inexpressible virtues result from having a complete series of the same number of unborn Vajra recitations of the 3 syllables. So practice it continuously. So it's saying doing 21,000 of these recitations and doing it all day. There's inexpressible benefit. Do that for 3 days, then do it constantly. All that has been discussed thus far concerns the achievement of quiescence with signs. So, in other words, all that has been discussed thus far is the attainment of calm abiding, the attainment of tranquility using objects. Signs refers to the vital energies, and then also refers to visualizing Buddhas or visualizing Vajrasattva. Training in quiescence without signs. Position your body as before, then while steadily gazing into the space in front of you without meditating on anything, steadily concentrate your consciousness without wavering in the space in front of you. Increase the stability and then relax again. Occasionally check, what is that consciousness that is concentrating? Steadily concentrate again, and then check out again. Check it again. Do that in an alternating fashion. Even if there are problems of laxity and lethargy, that will dispel them. In all of your activities, rely upon unwavering mindfulness. Do that for 1 day. Oh, 1 second, everybody. I have to open the door. Excuse me. Okay, where were we? All right. Rely on unwavering mindfulness. Do that for 1 day. This could actually be, we can make this the meditation that we'll do. We'll start meditating in 15 minutes or so. We can sit for an hour, but you're welcome to leave whenever you like or need to. So how this meditation works, this is quiescence without signs. You're meditating, you're sitting like this, eyes open, and become mindful of space as a quality and experience. So looking in front of you, there's space. Focus on space. And then release that focus. And then focus again on space. And as you do this, check and inquire what it is that's doing the focusing, what it is that's doing the concentrating. You're noticing space, and then I say to focus, and then there's now an intention on focusing. And you look back and you see what is it that is intending. And you alternate between the release of the focus and the release of the inquiry. And you get clearer and clearer on the fact that it's really an impulse for focusing to arise, the following of that impulse, the engaging of choice, the engaging of intention. And you see this again, you look again and again. What is it? What is it that is focusing? And the point is that it makes you look directly at mind. So this focusing on space and then releasing the focus on space is a precursor to this. Then position your body as before. Cast your gaze downward. Gently release your mind, and without having anything on which to meditate, gently release both your body and mind into their natural state. Having nothing on which to meditate, and without any modification or adulteration, place your attention simply without wavering in its own natural state, its natural limpidity, its own character, just as it is. Remain in clarity and rest the mind so that it is loose and free. Alternate between observing who is concentrated inwardly and who is releasing. If it is the mind, ask, what is that very agent that releases the mind and concentrates the mind? Steadily observe yourself and then release again. By so doing, fine stability will arise in you, and you may even identify awareness. Do that too for 1 day. So now at this phase, you're not focusing on space anymore. You're just allowing the mind to be in a natural state. What does that mean, to allow the body and mind to be in a natural state? It means that you don't attempt to fabricate or change what's happening. So this part of your mind that is always reaching or always attempting to do something, or this part of your mind that is judging and analyzing, always constantly adjusting. If you notice, when we're hanging out with when we're with people, or even when we're alone, we're it's it's habitual to constantly move the body around, like cross your legs, uncross your legs, shift to one side, shift to another side. We're always trying to make the body comfortable. And we do this mentally also. We just don't notice it. We're usually trying to stay in some kind of safe zone, some kind of equilibrium. So how to rest the mind and body in a natural state is by, one, keeping the body still. So don't move. And as far as the mind is concerned, you're not trapping the mind or freezing the mind. You're giving the mind license to do whatever. The only difference here is that you're remaining aware. You're watching, you're observing. So your mind wants to think about this. Okay. A thought comes up and it passes. There's resistance in your meditation. You give the mind, you give yourself permission to have that resistance. And so by doing this, you're letting the mind be exactly as it is, which is rare. Total permission to be as it is. You leave your mind in a natural state. Once these coarser thoughts or emotions subside, there's this evenness of mind. There's just this bare knowing. And that's what it refers to as you may identify awareness, or you may even identify awareness. Yeah, as far as letting the mind be in a natural state, the maxims are: don't plan, don't think. I think this it's Talopa is like 6 points. It's basically like 6 don'ts, and they're along the lines of these: don't plan, don't think, don't modify. So whatever state is coming up, or whatever is arising uh, in mind, in experience, you leave it as it is. So when you're doing this, you're not actually trying to relax more. You're letting uh, you're letting your mind and body be exactly as it is. You're not trying to take it in one direction or trying to take it in another direction. You're simply resting. So you alternate in this exercise between simply resting and then looking back. What is it that's resting? What is it that is inquiring? When your mind is resting, your mind is resting. When your mind is not resting, your mind is not resting. When your mind is intending, your mind is intending. When your mind is without intention, your mind is without intention. It's all mind. So this investigation gets us the recognition of consciousness. That's its function. So we'll do both of these as meditations in like 7 minutes. So let's see if I can get us through the whole quiescence section. Yeah, so this is page 106. Yeah, so when you alternate between the let's say it's the meditation where you're focusing on space. There's you're attending, you're intending and attending to space. Then you relax that intention. If you're investigating, you're looking at what is it that's intending. At some point, you relax that investigation. So you just alternate depending on what my instructions are or what you're doing in the text. It says here, then do as before. Now alternately concentrate your consciousness tightly, wholly concentrating it without wavering, and then gently release it, evenly resting it in openness. Again, concentrate and again release. In that way, meditate with alternating constriction and release. At times, steadily direct your gaze up into the sky. Steadily focus your awareness with the desire to be without anything on which to meditate. Relax again. At times, steadily, unwaveringly, direct your awareness into the space on your right. At times, direct it to the left. At times, direct it downward. During each session, rotate the gaze around in those directions. Occasionally inquire, what is that awareness of the one who is focusing the interest? Let the awareness itself steadily observe itself. At times, let your mind come to rest in the center of your heart and evenly leave it there. At times, evenly focus it in the expanse of the sky and leave it there. Thus, by shifting the gaze in various alternating ways, the mind settles in its natural state. As an indication of this, if awareness remains evenly, lucidly, and steadily wherever it is placed, quiescence has arisen. This is Gayatri Rinpoche, I'll read here. The expanse of the sky implies a boundless quality of awareness with no demarcations or limits. The term release appears in different contexts in this treatise, and it has different meanings in each context. It appears again with regard to the clear light of the transitional process of dreaming and also in the transitional process of meditative stabilization, each time with somewhat different connotations. The evenly remaining awareness is the Buddha nature, or Tathagata Garbha, meaning the embryo or essence of the Tathagata, the Buddha. This is the boundless, space-like nature of your own awareness. However, in our present situation, it's as if we've stuffed it into a crooked pipe that we've thrown into a trash can. The essence of the Buddha nature entails the equality of samsara and nirvana. It is the basis of samsara and nirvana, and it transcends the three times of the past, present, and future. So the nature of awareness is beyond the present. Some of you might wonder, you say that awareness, quote, you say that awareness transcends the present, but elsewhere in this text, there are references to the awareness of the present. or present awareness. How do you reconcile these two statements? These are different usages of the term present. In the former case, the present refers to what is occurring now as opposed to the past or future. In that sense, awareness is beyond the present. The latter references to present awareness mean awareness that is primordially without beginning and without end. So this awareness is of the primordial present. The distinction here is between conventional and ultimate truth. And ending here, final passage. Flawless quiescence is like an oil lamp that is unmoved by wind. Wherever the awareness is placed, it is unwaveringly present. Awareness is vividly clear, without being sullied by laxity, lethargy, or dimness. Wherever the awareness is directed, it is steady and sharply pointed, unmoved by adventitious thoughts. It is straight. Thus, a flawless meditative state arises in one's mind stream, and until this happens, it is important that the mind is settled in its natural state. Without genuine quiescence arising in one's mind stream, even if awareness is pointed out, it becomes nothing more than an object of intellectual understanding. One is left simply giving lip service to the view, and there is the danger that one may succumb to dogmatism. Thus, the root of all meditative states depends upon this. For this reason, do not be introduced to awareness too soon, but practice until there occurs a fine experience of stability. Up to this point, the instructions have concerned the practice of quiescence with and without signs, samaya. All right. So we'll do this, have this final, I think I just said that, but this is actually important. And then I'll guide all of us through the meditation. Revealing the nature of awareness. This is now the insight section, and we are now on page 114. In that way, until genuine quiescence arises in your mind stream, use numerous techniques to settle your mind in its natural state. As an analogy, if you wish to look at reflections and the planets and stars in a pool of water, you will not see them if the water is disturbed by waves and ripples, but you will clearly see them by looking into a pool in which the water is limpid and unmoving. Likewise, when the mind is jolted around by the wind of objects, like a rider on a bucking bronco, even if you are introduced to awareness, you will not identify it. For once the mind is helplessly manipulated by compulsive ideation, it does not see its own nature. According to the custom of some teaching traditions, you are first introduced to the view, and upon that basis you seek the meditative state. This makes it difficult to identify awareness. In the tradition presented here, you first establish the meditative state, then on that basis you are introduced to the view. This profound point makes it impossible for you not to identify awareness. Therefore, first settle your mind in its natural state, then bring forth genuine quiescence in your mind stream and reveal the nature of awareness. Position your body with the 7 attributes like before. Steadily fix your gaze in the space in front of you, into the vacuity at the level of the tip of your nose, without any disorderliness or duplicity. This is the benefit of this gaze. In the center of the hearts of all beings, there is a hollow crystal kati channel, which is a channel of primordial wisdom. If it points down and is closed off, primordial wisdom is obscured and delusion grows. Thus, in animals, that channel faces downwards and is closed off, so they are foolish and deluded. In humans, that channel points horizontally and is slightly open, so human intelligence is bright and our consciousness is clear. In people who have attained siddhis and in bodhisattvas, that channel is open and faces upward. So there arise unimaginable samadhis, primordial wisdom of knowledge, and vast extrasensory perceptions. These occur due to the open quality of that channel of primordial wisdom. Thus, when the eyes are closed, that channel is closed off and points down. So consciousness is dimmed by the delusion of darkness. By steadily fixing the gaze, that channel faces up and opens, which isolates pure awareness from impure awareness. Then clear, thought-free samadhi arises, and numerous pure visions appear. Thus, the gaze is important. All right, that's the recording for today.